I'm going to be tackling a pretty controversial topic today. I hate tipping. I hate tipping servers. I hate tipping drivers. I hate tipping hairdressers. I hate employers who rely on tipping to pay their staff. I hate people who give tips. Tipping should only be given. Never! You should never, ever tip anyone for anything, because that's the only way that we are ever going to get rid of the tipping system.
Hey, Hannibal here, and welcome back to the channel. Tipping has been a theme in the last couple of videos I've been doing. If you guys checked out my video with Mr. Pink from the movie Reservoir Dogs, why his character, he doesn't tip.
Come on, throw in a buck.
I don't tip.
You don't tip?
No, I don't believe in it.
We're going to be talking about a YouTuber who says he doesn't tip and he thinks no one should tip. Tipping is a hot topic, especially in the gig community. We work for tips for the most part. That's how we pay the bills. Base wage from any of these apps is too small. So we are really passionate about making sure that we're taking the offers that have tips in them. And we really feel strong about people who don't tip. There's a lot of things people wish they can do to people who didn't tip. But this particular YouTuber, he goes by the name of Asshole Patrol, which is a very interesting name. He's really passionate about not tipping and thinks it's a really flawed system. We're gonna go and pick out some of his most important points on the matter. Let's start with the first clip.
First of all, I don't like feeling like I've been tricked. When you look at a menu, you never see the price you're gonna pay. It already sucks that the taxes are put on at the end and you never get to see them on the actual listed price. Then on top of that, you have this optional 15, 20, nobody fucking knows % fee that is put there that you are guilted into paying so that someone else doesn't have to deal with the responsibility of handling their own payroll. It sucks that an employer can just unload the burden of having to pay for their own staff service onto you. And if they end up underpaid, you are the asshole.
And this is probably his most important point, and I think that's something that's been talked about. The tipping system is a very flawed system. The idea that the employer is not chiefly responsible for giving the employees a decent wage, a livable wage. We're more mad at the customer for providing a bad tip compared to the employee for not paying their employees a livable wage. Is a very interesting dynamic that we have in this country. We're mad at the no tippers, but should the customer be burdened to give us a livable wage with their tips? This is how the system is, and if they don't tip, then we don't get a livable wage. Is that a good system? Let's get to the second point.
I don't really feel that bad because I've worked minimum wage jobs in my life and I wasn't going around asking people to give me more money. Why is it always servers that people care about? There are innumerable minimum wage workers that you deal with face to face some of the times all over the place, are the same people who will buy products made in Chinese sweatshops by people getting paid below $1 an hour. But when it comes to restaurant servers, all of a sudden they are these bleeding hearts that just care about their well-being.
Another fair point from the Butthole Patrol or Asshole Patrol. The idea that there's many minimum wage jobs that aren't required to tip is not even something to be thought of. There's people out there working hard, busting their ass, but unfortunately they're not in the hospitality industry. So tipping is just something they don't get. They're not going to get tipped. And it's interesting that we have the service industry get the bulk of the tips, but what happens to other types of jobs? Other types of jobs that's just within the hospitality industry.
Wouldn't matter if I got a $20 meal or a $40 meal. I would just be paying for the service charge. So then it's kind of treated like a commission. And yet a server isn't a salesperson. They aren't getting paid a commission. They're getting paid to take the order, bring it back to the kitchen, and then bring the plate to your table. Why is it that when I spend more on the food, I also have to spend more on the service? I already am splurging at restaurants. I already don't like paying for all that overpriced food at restaurants, and then I have to pay another 20% on top of that. I don't feel bad for servers in general, for a bunch of reasons. First of all, I've worked in the back of the house of restaurants before. I received no tips when I was working as a dishwasher. When I was working as a line cook, I got tipped out of the tip pool, and that amounted to about, I don't know, $15 a week. I don't know if that's standard or substandard, but it wasn't a lot of money, especially compared to what the servers were taking home that I knew for a fact were getting more more money than I was when I was the one making the actual food.
This is another one that I really can't argue. I have not worked in a restaurant. My service industry was around taking care of dogs. But the idea that people in the back are not getting the same amount of tips than the people in the front doesn't seem like there's a fair system in place. Where the servers, waiters and waitresses, why are servers making more money than the guys in the back who are actually cooking the food? Why they're not getting a full tips? That seems like a flawed system. The problem is with the tipping system is there's no universal standards. There's custom standards, there's cultural standards, 20%, right? But the average person doesn't really know. It's all based on interpretation.
And I know a lot of people are gonna say like, oh wait, but the tipping makes them hustle, it makes them give better service. But there's already countries all over the world where tipping just does not exist and is sometimes outright banned. And they're doing just fine. In fact, I don't even know what good service is supposed to mean. Seriously, what is good service? All I give a shit about is getting the food to my table. I came to the restaurant for the food. I don't fucking care about the service. And I don't know why specifically when it comes to restaurant bills, that's the thing where people go like, oh, so you can't afford it? Well, I can afford to pay an extra 15% on just about everything. But I don't go to the grocery store, buy $100 worth of groceries and be like, hey, here's 20 extra bucks for checking me out because fuck it, I can afford an extra 20%. I don't go to my landlord at the end of the month and say, hey bro, here's 150 bucks on top of my rent because fuck it. It's not about like what can you afford, it's like what should I actually be paying, what is actually in my interest, and what kind of bullshit am I willing to deal with.
Now his point about good service, I know what good service is. Unfortunately, he seemed like he's been in restaurants and never understood what good service is. Good service is when you are dealing with someone who is very attentive, very friendly, making sure that you're taken care of, making sure that they're checking on you maybe once every 20 minutes to make sure that you're having a good time, making sure the food is good. Good service is when you really just take the job seriously and you want to make sure that you're providing the best possible environment for people who are sitting there eating. And I think with him being, you can call him fiscally responsible or cheap, the idea that people who are trying to understand, all right, how much money is acceptable, how much money is the right amount of money, it's a lot of confusion. A lot of what's going on, especially now as people are dealing with all types of things that's going on in our lives. We are dealing with more people who are not going to tip. People are not tipping for many reasons. It's not necessarily just because they're out of money. And yes, we can get really angry and think of all the horrible things we would like to do to someone who doesn't tip. I'll let you know that I will still continue to tip myself. This is the system. I would just say overall, you should still tip. It's not the best system, but this is the system we have right now. As the chaotic industry of the gig economy changes and turns, because lawmakers are going to change things up. Right now, the average gig worker needs the tips to make a living. My biggest takeaway of this video is that the tipping system is very flawed, but that's all I have to say about for this video. I'm gonna put the link of the entire video. It'll be in the description below. Check it out. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.